We're also Parks and Recreation and Open Space today, and we have our city expert Angela here, so she'll be jumping in at one point to talk about that. And we'll have questions and comments at the end. If you're somebody that would prefer to write on a comment card, please do so. Not everybody loves to get up and ask a question in front of a group, so we want to help make sure you guys have a way to do that. I don't think we have any Spanish speakers in here right now. We have Axel Rios over here. He's a simultaneous interpreter and the Yampa Valley Housing Authority board member. So you might see some folks with headsets at some point if they come in. They'll be providing simultaneous interpretation. So what does annexation look like? Robin did some research on this with the city, and because I think we take for granted a lot of places that have been annexed in the last 40 years. So areas that we've had annexed in the last 40 are like Brooklyn, or maybe 50. Brooklyn in 1972, that's down by the ice arena, River Road. We have Fish Creek, and that's Upper Fish Creek Road, 72 and 73. We've got the mountain area and the Whistler area in 1973, and most recently Fairview and West Steamboat. So annexation is not uncommon, and we've also had about 40 other annexations since then. They're just really small, and we don't necessarily recognize them. One of them is at the top of Yonganite, where it hits Thornburg, for those of you that know that area. So Brown Ranch Annexation Committee, we're working on an annexation point. So that's just the MOU we have with the city and what's going to happen out there. It has to do with fiscal impact. They've been working really hard on what that looks like. The city and housing authority staff and the city council and the housing authority board. We look at infrastructure and maintenance. So a big one, of course, is who's going to pay to plow the alleys, right? And what's that look like and what's that cost? Water. Fortunately, the city's done a phenomenal job with their water planning here, so that's a pretty easy thing. We know we've got water for at least 800 units to start. Public safety and the proportion of land that's dedicated to affordable housing and parks and rec and open space and that type of thing. So like right now we're working with the city on things like how many parks are going to go out there? And Angela will speak more to that. What's the open space look like? Where's that urban core trail? Right? So the BRAC committee, we've got Gary Suter, the city manager, in the back. We have Jason Beasley, the Housing Authority Executive Director, up front. We've got Kathleen Meyer, next to Gary. She's on the Housing Authority board, and was also on City Council during the first annexation. So that's excellent. We also have Leah Wood, our Housing Authority Board President, Joella West, who is here. Yep, and then Robin Crossan. You heard that there. Okay. So BRAC, we want to hear from you. Okay. So right here we've got 4 ways that you can provide your input. One of them is at these town hall meetings. Okay. And we'll do another one sometime around June or July. We also are doing small presentations to different groups in town. If you've got a group you'd like us to come to, please let us know. We'd be happy to do so. We have up here the links for the BRAC meeting. There's one next Wednesday, the 10th, and it goes from 9 to 12. And at 11:30, you can provide public comment for 3 minutes, just like you can at a city council meeting. We also have a website. And we've got information over here with that website. It is engagesteamboat.net/annex, and you can go on there anytime you want and write whatever you want to talk about. So we also have information sheets over here. We have the annexation 101 sheet. If you have questions on what that looks like, we've got a fact sheet on the Brown Range and a fact sheet on housing authority properties. We're constantly asked, what are you building right now? People have more urgent needs sometimes for housing, so that'll provide that information for you. So basically, annexation just means we're adding the land to the city. The housing authority has applied to bring 420 of the 534 acres into the city. The other 114 are outside the urban growth boundary and are just kind of hanging out there for a future date. So the West area has been designated as the place for our growth since 1995. And the Rock County Master Plan designates the West as a growth area. And we've been working on this for a long time, so. There's a lot of different documents. We have up there the different plans and documents that talk about stuff. So we hear a lot about what about Steamboat 700? How come it didn't work the first time? How come it didn't work the second time? So City Council in 2009 approved it for 200 homes and 20% for workforce housing. That was right after the economy crashed. We were in a recession, and what happened was a group of residents. If you get, I want to say it's somewhere around 1,200 signatures, you can bring it to a vote for the community on a referendum. And that's for folks that are actually in the city. And so that's what happened to that one. And it got shut down. Yeah. And then of course we had Green Gray. That's another slide. Yeah. So in 2019, City Council approved the annexation for Green Gray. That was 450 homes with 33% for workforce housing. That did go to a city vote and it passed by 20%. Somehow the contract fell through between Green Gray and the group that owned it out of Las. So why BHA? We operate as a nonprofit, right? But it's a multi-jurisdictional entity. And so it's part city, part county. And that's why we're able to get a donation. And tax free, right? And it is focused on local workforce. You have to work for a business physically located in Round County or retired. We get a lot of questions. Retirees, people who are already retired, can live out there if they finish working in Round County. Okay. So if you're somebody that's 75 and you retired at 65 and you worked here for 5 years before you retired, you qualify. One of the areas of agreement we had with BRAC most recently, and was a big success, and we're all very excited about, was that factor of how many people will live out there. Right now in this county, we have 2.3 people per household on average, but we decided to go with a factor of 2.7. That's a very important number because that's the number that the folks in the city work with to try and decide how much things are going to cost out there and what the expenses are, right? So we agreed on 2.7, which equates to 6,113 residents, and we're going to have rentals and for sale. And AMI. Super complicated, area median income. We get so many questions about this. So we have some numbers up here for people to kind of look at and kind of think about their own income. But people always want to know what those incomes equate to as far as the jobs here in town. So we did a little research, and thanks to the school district and the city, I got a hold of the salary ranges for a lot of different positions. In the school district, for teachers, whether it's starting wage straight out of college with the bachelor's or up to those folks that have been around for a long time with a PhD, they are 55% to 110% AMI. Okay, which is why they aren't finding housing. 100% AMI is 72,000 for one person, it's 82,000 for 2 people, and it's 104,000 for 4 people. Okay, when you look at those numbers, if your income doesn't quite fit in there and you're trying to figure out, we have a graph at the Housing Authority. Contact us, we will send it to you. Or you can take those numbers and double up. So a 60% AMI, you can double up to 120%, and it's going to be $86,000. That makes sense? Simple math, you can just double. Police officers, they are anywhere from 70% to 130% AMI. Firefighters and paramedics, they're anywhere from 90% to 130% AMI. I did not put in the folks that are in charge, like the chiefs. Okay, that's folks that are all levels, like entry level to maybe like supervisor, sergeant. What's affordable? 30% of your income means it's affordable. If you can pay only 30% of your income for housing, you've got enough money to cover all the other expenses. You don't necessarily need subsidies and scholarships for your kids to do activities and things. When I was at integrated community, as soon as we got families into a housing authority property, their entire lives changed dramatically. And they went from coming in our office every week to never coming in. It's that dramatic. Safe, stable, affordable housing. The housing authority uses tax credits. People are always like, how can you subsidize and how can you get these rents so low, and the cost for the for sale units we're going to start doing so low? And it's because we have access to grants and tax credits, and we also have a mill levy that we've had since 2017, and that money goes to filling those financial gaps for why it doesn't pencil out in private developers. We will have some sort of deed restrictions in place. This development will be affordable in perpetuity. So annexation, what's required for annexation? This is the official list. But basically it's our city council, city staff, housing authority. We just have to come to an agreement of what everything's gonna look like out there and how it's gonna get paid for and who's in charge of what. So like some of the parks may be owned by the city and take care of them. Some of them might be owned by the housing authority. We just don't know. That's the process. So May 10th, next Wednesday, we'll be presenting the housing authority will be presenting a draft annexation agreement and fiscal impact analysis. It should be an excellent meeting. It's going to be working out some of the details. And our intention is to have an agreement with BRAC, the entire group, by the summer of 2023. Is the vote required? No. City council can decide. They can decide to annex it, or they can decide to put it to a vote. And I know there's a lot of conversation going on, and we'll just have to see where that ends up. If they approve it, the public once again can get enough petitions to bring it to a referendum. This is a complicated question. We get asked this all the time. So does it mean higher taxes? Not necessarily. We've got to figure out how we're paying for it. And as everyone knows, we have an STR tax and we've got grants and subsidies, and that's yet to be determined. We don't really have an answer for you yet on that. Types of parks and open space.
Thank you. Oh, the room filled out. Hi, everybody. I'm Angela Cosby. I'm the Parks and Rec Director here in town. I'm not as coordinated. All right, you can still hear me okay? Sweet. So I just have a few slides to go through. Start with just an introduction of park types, because we'll decipher a little bit into those more. So first is your mini parks or your pocket parks. Those are typically near 1.5 acres or less. Those are the really small parks that might have a small playground that are close to a neighborhood. They can have small play areas, shade pavilions, or an open play area. Then neighborhood parks. So they're typically 1.5 to 8 acres in size, so a little bit bigger. They provide for more active recreation, diverse amenities. Occasionally they'll have restrooms, shelters, pavilions, playgrounds, or maybe like one sports field. Community parks, these are the most popular parks we have in our community. They're 8 to 40 acres in size. So if you look at like Whistler Park or Emerald Park, those are community parks. They provide community-wide activities and facilities. And then we have regional parks. So these are your big parks. They're 40 acres or larger in size. Emerald's right on the border. Hallison's a great example. They provide services to the surrounding region, and they typically contain numerous sports fields, special use or indoor facilities. Thank you. So then as we talk about parks and open space and annexation and the Brown Ranch development, there's 4 different plans that we consider and take into account when we're evaluating parks and open space. The first is our community development code. The second is the West Steamboat Springs area plan. Then we have the Steamboat Springs area plan, and then the Parks and Recreation master plan, which we refer to as a PROSTR plan. So we take information from all 4 of these into account, and they all do reference each other. Specifically, they reference the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space master plan and how much acreage per capita, so for how many people the area is serving. And we specifically have recommendations from that adopted plan from 2019 as to what amenities and acreage we should provide. All right, I'm gonna go over this chart a little bit. The top rows, you can tell there's different types of parks. We have our current service level, the poster plan recommendation, or the service level from 2017, when the evaluation was done. Then taking that map, the Brown Ranch requirements, then the Brown Ranch current proposal, and then the delta that we're currently looking at. So with making the neighborhood parkland, our current service level is 4.8 acres for every 1,000 people. Community parkland, we have 23.4 acres for every 1,000 people. Regional parkland, 19.2 acres per 1,000 population. Open space natural areas, 179 acres per 1,000. Trails, 4 miles per 1,000, and special use facilities, we have about half of this facility per 1,000 residents. So then when we look at a poster plan, this one's a little confusing because it's the poster plan for some things. So for everything that's in white, it has very clear requirements. For things that are in gray, it says use the current service level, so that's a little grayer, it's not complete clear direction. So the poster plan says for requirements for mini neighborhood parkland to provide 5.5 acres per 1,000 population, specifically in the West Steamboat Springs future development annexation area. So exactly what we're talking about with Brown Ranch. For community parkland, same thing, 6 acres per 1,000. Regional parkland, it's not per 1,000, it just says 46 acres or larger site. Open space natural areas, it talks about equivalent level of services, so softer there, it's saying 192 acres per 1,000. Trails, 3.71 miles per 1,000. And special use facilities, it calls for 1 in the West Steamboat area as we develop. So how that equates to Brown Ranch based upon that 6,113 people population. For mini neighborhood parkland, 33.6 acres, community parkland, 36.7. Regional parkland, again, straight figure, 46 acres or larger. Open space natural areas, 1,008 acres. That's just not possible with the size of the property. Trails, 19.5 miles. Special use facilities, the plan calls for 1. So we look at that. So then we've been having a lot of discussion with the Brown Ranch Annexation Committee for anybody who's been following along, and we've made a lot of really good progress. So with the current proposal that we're evaluating, there's an offering of 28.4 acres, so super close there. Community parkland, it's at the current proposal is actually exceeding with 39.66 acres. Regional parkland, we're not there yet, we're still discussing that, we're at 0 acres. Open space natural area, 125 acres, trails, 8.3 miles, and special use facilities, 1. So the delta, negative 5.2 with mini neighborhood parkland, still really close. Community parkland over about 3. Regional parkland, negative 46. The open space natural areas, it's just not applicable as that is a 1, it's unattainable with the acreage we're looking at with the Brown Ranch parcel, and it wasn't clear direction. It was more of a goal of aiming for current service levels. Same with trails, not applicable, and special use facilities. Were they? So these are how the Brown Ranch Annexation Committee and how staff on both sides have been evaluating the conversation, negotiating, and trying to get our acreage numbers there to best serve the future residents of Brown Ranch. Also, what the Housing Authority has committed to, there's been a huge focus on easy access to parks from all homes. So making sure that the parks are spread out throughout the development and that there's easy walking distance for all residents to the parks. So 70.3 acres of total parkland, 125 acres of open space, and space for special use facilities / indoor field house that our plans call for. So that's great. Then we do have those continued discussion items of the addition of a 46 or larger acre regional park. After, as we're getting closer to that conversation, we're going to start talking more about park amenities and design, as well as the funding of construction and maintenance of those parks. We haven't dove into that too much. Questions for the group would be, what do you like about your current offerings of parks and recreational services? What would you like to see for those services at Brown Ranch? And what amenities would you like to see within those parks? And I'm happy to answer any of the questions too.
Sheila,
Yeah.
quick question on the park stuff. I know that we're talking about 2.7.
Scott, you have to go to a microphone. 'Cause
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Zoom can't hear.
That's a dangerous thing.
So we're taking comments and questions right now, and actually, Scott, can you wait just a second, because we have somebody that needs to speak first before they go, where is that? Yes. We have a very. Okay. Scott, why don't you go, Scott, go get her stuff.
Oh, okay, you gotta go find what Ben went to.
We have a young one that has to get somewhere.
I keep pointing to me, but where's this? Oh, like I need that help.
Oh, he's here?
Yeah.
You can use that one as.
Is that one? I really just wanted to stand up here, and say thank you to the BRAC, to the Housing Authority, for putting all of the emphasis on these open spaces and on these parks. I think it's really important to have. My name is Lindsay Sinbay. I was born and raised in Steamboat. I have played sports all my life, primarily soccer, in this town, and we've had a lot of change in what we have access to be able to play. Throughout my career, I played in the gym at Whiteland. I've played in the gym at the high school. And now my son plays at the turf field at the Montessori school. But that's really the only opportunities that we have, or we have had over the years, and many of those aren't accessible anymore. So to be able to have this facility that you're talking about, and have all of these open spaces and additional fields for all of the sports in this town, I think is really important. Another thing that I want to just say thank you to all for is the fact that as we have a growing population, we have growing youth and growing children. And one of the biggest protective factors for our children to keep them from adverse behaviors is to have trusted adults in their lives and open, safe spaces that they can recreate and build those resiliency skills. And it keeps them away from adverse behaviors and choices, such as substance use, or violence, other types of things like that. So as a youth prevention specialist and someone who works for the Colorado Consortium for Prescription Drug Abuse Prevention, I really thank you all for the amount of time and emphasis that you're putting into these buildings to both have our children grow and build those skills, but then also for more of us adults to have the ability to recreate and work out what's going on in our brains too. So I think my son just wanted to say something really quick.
Hi, my name is Benjamin. I think it'd be really beneficial for many kids if there are more indoor facilities for many sports. Thank you.
Do you have a name for that place you want? What's it called? The indoor barn.
We'd like to see the barn out there with lots of indoor places to play and recreate.
Good job.
Thanks this way.
Thank you all.
Seeing Lindsay play. I guess this would be on the 2.7. My sense is this is going to be tilted. We're going to see a younger age group out there that'll have kids. And I think having just kind of that in the background to make the decisions in terms of playing fields, etc., is that we'll see a higher concentration of kids out there than you might see in other places.
And that's an excellent point. That's why we use the 2.7 factor instead of the parent 2.3, because we're helping make these families there. That's
I did not as good with speaking offhand, so I had something written down here. But my name is Jennifer Travis. I am speaking tonight as a parent of a volleyball player and a 25-year resident. So thank you for the opportunity to make some of these points. But I'm absolutely in favor of an indoor year-round recreation facility like the barn. And I've got a few reasons behind that. One of which is the distribution of parks within the city of Steamboat Springs. Of the 29 spaces in town, there are only 5 that are located west of the big L of what my family calls West Lincoln Park, which is actually West Lincoln Park. We've got Stockbridge over here, which is a great park, but very small, as I believe Angela called it a mini park. West Side Park is also a very small playground. Lithia Park is on the list, and it has a picnic table. Bear River Park is very well used, and is much appreciated by especially the younger community. Heritage Park is
basically accessible only by vehicles, except if you live in Heritage Park. And then that's it. So the communities of West Lincoln or west, on the west side of town definitely need recreation spaces. As well, Route County for many years was rated one of the healthiest rural communities in the United States, but we haven't seen that designation in many years. The National Recreation and Parks Association has published numerous articles that show a direct correlation between recreation opportunities and health and wellness. Development projects such as the Brown Ranch need to plan and include spaces that support healthy communities, and I appreciate the work that you guys have done with that. We need to make sure that our residents have opportunities for self-care, and that'll directly feed into our very friendly community that we want to maintain. The gym space available in the community is not adequate for the demand that we've got. Even with the addition of Sleeping Giant School, many tough choices have had to be made regarding what programs are offered and which ones are surrendered. Student programming has to be kept to reasonable hours to accommodate homework, drives home, and reasonable sleep time. Currently, the gyms are used until about 9:30 p.m. and this puts many players arriving home at close to about 10 p.m. Then this goes, for volleyball, it goes down to about middle school players to high school. So this time and space limitation also creates a barrier to welcome more kids into our program. As far as adult recreation goes, because as much as we would have a concentration of kids in that program, I think we would have adults in there. I've seen the adult leagues drop significantly over the last 10 years, and as a parent, I have, as a matter of fact, stopped my game recreation program, which I used to play with Sheila with. I can't start exercising at 9:30 at night, potentially get home at 11, eventually fall asleep, and then be productive the next day for my family and for my employer. It just doesn't happen. And when you're a single parent or a parent of young children, those late time slots are basically impossible. Volleyball, soccer, and basketball are some of the sports that I think will be included in that barn, and they require very little personal equipment and are as such are much more affordable. The development we created with affordability as a priority, this is a perfect match. Additionally, the user space being at ground level and a flat surface would be a great opportunity for alternative wintertime option for adaptive, senior citizen, and preschool recreation programs. Lastly, I promise, Ski Town USA is seeing many athletes compete after high school on snow. There are many athletes in other sports programs who, if provided with a year-round training facility, would be able to commit to skill and strength training and potentially extend their athletic career to the collegiate levels or beyond, possibly even securing scholarships to attend those schools as well. And I have to say, our school district has been very generous in accommodating our youth programs with their facilities. They're great at providing guidelines under which the user groups are welcome, and they're very good at taking care of our taxpayer investments. We all need to join their efforts in providing safe and welcoming facilities to all of our communities for year-round participation in sports and recreation for youth and adults. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lizzie, and I'm a volleyball player. I've been playing for 3 years with the school and right out for volleyball. With the space that we have, we're practicing from 7:30 to 9:30, which makes it so that I get home super late, and doing homework after I get home from practice kind of sucks. And also with the space that we have, we only get 2 practices a week, which means 4 hours per week with my team. And we compete almost every single weekend, so that makes it a little bit difficult to really get to know the team and have time to practice. Also year round, there's not a lot of places that I can play with my friends recreationally, besides the sand volleyball courts, and those are closed in the winter. I think that having this sports bar would really help me and my teammates. And I hope this facility is included in this development.
Thanks for the opportunity to comment. My name is Kim Sullivan. I'm the Resilient Land and Water Director at the Sustainability Council. And I wanted to comment on the open space. Because I think numbers is one way to look at open space number of acres, but quality of acres matters much, and I'm very familiar with the land out there. We've had a lot of discussions about it. And I know there's some discussion about how to treat the acres outside the urban growth boundary. But I want to commend the housing authority and the master plan for having identified the most important areas to be protected as open space from development. And those are included in this plan. So that's the riparian corridor of Slate Creek and that area to the north, which at the moment is valuable as a wildlife migratory corridor and for wildlife habitat on the table. The future of that area is going to be more affected by what happens in the private land on either side of it, and how that gets treated as the urban growth boundary. But for what the housing authority has put forward within the amount of acres they have for the quality of the open space and the way it's being proposed to use, I think it's as good as you could get for what the applicant to work with out there. So those acres should be considered the best acres. So I want to support the way the housing authority has laid out the proposal for the open space. So and this, that's just the not the parks part of the open space. Not that I'm against the parks part either.
Yeah, the price, question on the points and everything, how are they fitting in time wise to the development of these 800 units?
Jason, feel free to answer it with me. We haven't gotten to that phase of the conversation yet, but I'm assuming we'll probably get there in the coming weeks.
Will it be there before May 10th? It's just our next meeting, city.
So I think the general concept related to the phasing of the parks is that they would be coming in so simultaneously with the neighborhoods. So if you look at the plan, they're sort of scattered throughout a lot of the smaller parks and neighborhood parks that serve the development. Those ones that would just be the ones that are like right outside the door, very walking distance. Those would be developed in conjunction with the surrounding housing development. And then the community parks, I think that's really the question on timing, is when those sort of larger 20 to 30 acre community parks would be developed in relation to the larger project. And that's just an ongoing conversation with the city on funding, timing, logistics, all of those things, because there is, a sequencing of events that needs to happen as far as certain utilities needing to go in, grading on the site needing to be done before we can really put in a park and be confident that we're not going to, a year later go in there with a bulldozer and have to, change some things. So it's all sort of in play, but we want to make sure that that's coming online so that everyone has really high level of park service.
Thank you. And also, the reason we're here at this point, kids don't have places to go and all this, because of uncontrolled growth that we tried to do in the 70s, the 80s, and we weren't listened to. What's going to happen when we build this? It's not going to get any better. It's just going to create more need for more things. And it's just like I said at the last meeting, this is a vicious circle we're in. It's not going to end. We do the Brown Ranch, it's over for town.
Hi, can you guys hear me? So my name is Angelica. I wear a lot of hats in this community, but I'm actually commenting tonight as the president of the Young Professionals Network Board of Directors. So YPN for short. Sheila actually came and spoke to the YPN board at our last board meeting about the annexation process, the Brown Ranch. We have a survey out right now to young professionals. So if you know any professionals who'd like to take the housing survey, please send them my way. I'd be happy to send it to them. We're closing the survey Friday, May 12th. But I'm just commenting, thanking you guys on behalf of young professionals in the community. This project is very much needed. As a young professional, I have 3 jobs in this community. I have a really good job in this community. And I live in Stagecoach. I love my home. I'm very lucky that I was able to purchase a home in Stagecoach. I would have loved to have bought a home on the west side. I would love to have stayed, and that wasn't really an option for me a couple years ago. But there's a lot of momentum. What the feedback that our board of directors is hearing from our members is that this is needed, that they are interested in buying here, they are interested in moving here. Yeah, and they're just hoping that by the time these places are built, that they will still be here. And so there's a lot of excitement. I want to thank you guys for all the hard work you're doing, local city, everyone on the annexation committee and the housing authority. If you have any questions about YPN or anything, please send them my way. Thank you.
I'm Tanner Stillwell, I'm the director of programming for high altitude basketball. My family moved here in 1989. I grew up here. I moved back a year and a half ago to take this job with high altitude basketball and develop community in Steamboat community around the game of basketball. That being said, we're extremely thankful to the school districts for all the gym space we get, even when that is limited. Like it's been said before, and I'll echo, as far as gym times and things that we have being limited to Monday, Wednesday, Fridays a lot of times, and anything after 5:30 p.m. Is usually when we're running programming. I currently have the only gym time for my high schoolers is at 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. before school, 3 days a week, where I have anywhere from 4 to 10 kids in the gym that are just wanting to recreate and get better at a sport that they love while having that community piece. I'm always looking for opportunities to build our programming, including we started Little Hoopers for first and second graders this year, which was run out at SPS, and we had over 40 participants between a 3-week program and a 5-week program, where we're continuing to build that community and recreational opportunity. And I think this is another opportunity where we can really encourage or have a place for youth and adult. I run on the adult side too, but that's taking a back seat just on the basis of not having as much gym time as we would hope. I think growing up here, I know growing up, I played basketball, hockey, baseball, all the sports that I could. I remember practicing in the hallways at the high school, at the old junior high, not having ice time even. And I know that's not on this, but just the opportunities that we didn't necessarily have that I think are important as we think about community and safe places for our youth to have that community and grow in that and be active and have healthy lifestyles that we can encourage. I'm excited and thankful that the sports barn has been brought up and is being encouraged in this project. And I really hope that I can just echo what else has been said. So thank you.
I'm Cindy Rubin, and I've lived in Mount for 27 years. And I really appreciate all that you're doing. This is in parks.
Get closer to the microphone, please.
Yep, and I'm a teacher over at City Giant School and also a parent of 2 teenagers. And I know that town is growing and there's lots of different user groups. And I missed the beginning of the meeting, but I was curious, is the barn only going to be like for the major sports like basketball, volleyball, and soccer? I'm also the parent of 2 swimmers. And what we're seeing is like with the pool being reconstructed next year, they don't know where it's going to go. And so I think as our community grows and our user groups grow, there's lots of user groups. And so I think I'm just curious, is the barn going to be only a sports barn or is it going to be a rec center? Because we're also one of the only communities in Colorado that does not have a rec center for its people. And as we know, Local Town Springs is a great facility. However, it's very expensive and it's very crowded right now. Very crowded because it's not anywhere to go. So I'm just curious about that.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, sports barn was kind of conceived from the youth sports
Can you
organization.
come to the mic, please?
Sorry to answer that, the sports barn was conceived from the youth sports organizations in town, soccer club, basketball club, volleyball club, lacrosse is in there as well. However, it is not intended to be exclusive use by those organizations. We just want to be the leaders in the made the facility happen. And yes, there will be open access for everybody.
Will it only be for those sports or is there a discussion that it could be for other sports as well?
Sure. Yeah, the way the facility is designed now is court space and turf space. And it's all very generic with the idea that it can be used for many different activities. Yeah, I mean, for the most part. It will, no, we don't have to answer that specific question. But it is like more generic space that can be used for many, many different.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Celine White, Superintendent of Steamboat Springs School District. So thank you to our volleyball player and mom who mentioned, I think you said everything I was going to say, so I appreciate that. But I absolutely hate turning away all of our sports from our schools because we are limited on the space. So I wanted to say that, so I completely support all of this, but also just the housing project in general. We are a phenomenal school district, number 7 in the state of Colorado, and I know that we are going to keep climbing up to number 1. But what the problem is right now is we are having a very difficult time attracting phenomenal teachers. Thank goodness for Susan Rubin, who's here, one of our teachers who's been in town for a very long time, and she can attest to this as well. We attract great teachers. They say, yes, I want to come here. And then a couple of weeks before school starts, they say, I'm sorry, I can't find housing. So that is, we're at a critical mass right now. So I just want to thank Jason, everybody working on this project, because this is what we need desperately.
I just want to share with you guys the community partnership part of the Brown Ranch, which is what the sports barn's coming in under. The housing authority is awesome at building housing, right? But we are not awesome at things like Boys and Girls Club and soccer fields and rec centers. We've got Northwest Colorado Health bringing in a mobile medical unit. We're looking at a lot of key resources that need to be out there, and those are our community partnerships. So if you want more information on that later, but I just want everyone to realize why the sports barn's here talking about their facility.
Yeah, it's really a question. What is the region part? What did that mean?
Angela Cosby, your Parks and Rec Director again. So our Parks and Recreation Open Space and Master Plan that was adopted by City Council in 2019 said when Steamboat develops west and develops into this proposed annexation area in the urban growth boundary, it had a paragraph where it called for developing a regional park that was 46 acres or larger, that had an indoor field house or an indoor recreation center of some type. Staff suggested the indoor field house or the sports barn because that we also had other master plans calling for an indoor field house. To have four ball field complex, additional multi-purpose fields, a large playground, etc. So that's where the request for the 46-acre regional park is coming from, is from our adopted plans. Does that answer your question?
Not sure. Is that what folks are talking about now?
The concept of a recreation center or sports barn, I believe the concept is that it would go in the regional park.
Okay.
So almost like if you look at Howelson Complex and the ice rink, it's within that whole complex in that park.
So is that just for the residents of Brown Ranch or for everybody?
Nope, it's meant to serve the entire region.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
If it's annexed, it's part of the city.
Yeah.
It's not everything is open.
And part of the discussion, there might be too much details, but part of the things we're discussing of if a regional park goes here, any park amenity, regardless of size, is going to draw so many people that we want it to be close to a major street, so folks aren't driving through neighborhoods to get to them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irina Vita. I work different hats in the community, but I'm here as the chair for Latinx Alliance. We were fortunate enough to partner with Young Valley Housing Authority through the community plan, and we hosted a lot of Spanish groups. And Brown Ranch has created so much hope in our community. you might not know this, but there's families that are in developed houses, and this is creating a lot of harm to children and creating a lot of unsecure spaces for families. So this will allow families to have stable and affordable housing and create more successful for students as well. And I think that open spaces, we heard in every focus group that they wanted a facility that could be used year round. A lot of the children are not able to play, access winter sports. I know I also work at integrated communities. I know we partner with a lot of the organizations that do sports to get those kids into the sports. But when it comes to winter, it can be hard to access winter sports. And we heard from families very clear and loud that they wanted a facility that their children can play year round. And also they wanted parks closer to their neighborhoods. And being able to know that they're, right across the street from they live and where, they can play with other kids in their neighborhood. So this is, I'm so happy to see this part of the conversation, because it was part of our hopes and fears as we move to the community. So thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Vanessa Vitia. I am part of the Brown Ranch Steering Committee. And I want to thank everybody for coming here, because I believe everything that needs to be heard when we decide on community things. I think this sport farm is very much needed. I think it's important. Me as a student and as a kid, I like being outdoors, but sometimes it's not like very accessible to be outdoors. So I think the sports farm is needed in winter, especially and all year round. And I have a question. It's actually, will all the parks be ADA accessible, not just the large ones? Yes, it's the law.
So Vanessa created the vision for the entire Brown Ranch, just so you guys know. That's part of the steering committee. She wrote it out. Thank God for 14 years old. Probably 15 now.
I do have a follow-up question to that. I've seen other playgrounds in the Brown Range where are wheelchair accessible, and I would love to see at least one park in Brown Range, if not multiple, where, some kids can transport from their wheelchair to a playground, but I would love to see those children to be able to play with their neighbors.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you all so much for coming. We're gonna do another one at 6.
More questions after.
Well, these are the questions for now. We're giving everybody one shot, but you and I can talk afterwards, Jeff, if you want.
My question. Gary Suter.
They'll be around. You can talk.
Oh, yeah.
Or you want to do just a quick one?
I thought it's terrible.
You got it.
It'd be nice for the public to hear it. Yeah. And, these little side jobs that seem to be going on behind our back.
Okay.
Take the microphone, Jack.
Yeah, come on up.
First one, probably Gary. This annexation is having to have 2 accesses to which they couldn't come to an agreement to. But all of a sudden, it seems like city council is trying to push this. And they were gonna basically threaten the owners of Overlook if they didn't come up with it. So you were gonna annex it, or whatever you call it. Take over the land, because it's also part of the Brown Ranch. I don't think the city should stay out of that part. You understand what I'm saying?
So you're talking about eminent domain condemnation,
Yeah,
right? I'm looking to the attorney. This was private, these were private property owners. And I believe that the Metro District needed to get the city's consent for condemnation. So they asked us through the legal process to provide that consent. And so that needed to be considered by city council, but it never got to that point because an agreement was reached.
but why? They have to come to city council.
The attorney says
It's like you're supporting the Brown Ranch in the background by doing this.
I can't read into what city council is thinking or read their minds about this. We never.
Yeah, a lot of this
discuss it. So if I could predict what council's gonna do, I'd probably be a city manager.
It's like a backdoor thing. The overlook would have had to come up with a way to do it with the private owners. But you guys were gonna eminent domain or whatever it is. Which isn't right, it should just let it flow and see what happens. Because this is back in the Brown Ranch by city council.
What's your next
Okay,
question?
I hear your comment. I understand. Yeah, eminent domain is not a popular action.
It definitely is, especially when it's trying to support something that a lot of people don't support.
Or we never got to that point of support or discussion.
Yeah, because you threatened them.
Hey, Travis, why don't you go to your next-
Okay, well, that's your opinion. I respect that.
And one more question, will you give this to, this is a huge project, will you put it to a vote by the people? And I know you're probably gonna say, I can't answer that, but it should.
Well, Sheila answered that in the opening remarks. That is a city council decision, and I can't predict what city council is gonna
But
do.
we already know what you're gonna do, so anyway.
Well, I'm glad you get it to that.
Yeah.
I can't predict that at all. That's the beauty of our city council, is that they're an authentic organization that does their business real time with the council. There's no backdoor politics going on. That's one thing.
All right, and then what-
This is my question for you, Barry.
Thank you. Thanks,
My
David.
name's Dave Gibbs. And, you know, I think community members, it's clear that there's a lot of support for parks and public safety and the water issue. But I think that what gives this community anxiety is we're not getting any numbers. We don't have a business plan. We have a lot of brainstorming and a big wish list. But I think that the members of this community, especially with the, you know, as I think Jack says, it's like this relationship between the city and the Brown Ranch is not a normal relationship that you have between a developer and a city. So we're all a little anxious about what goes on behind the scenes, the multiple closed door sessions with council. And what is this thing gonna cost? Where is the business plan with the number and when is that going to come out?
So that's what the BRAC group is working on and through the end of June. And I believe next Wednesday we'll answer some of the questions, but that you'll have that full plan before city council even goes to vote on it. And so we'll keep you posted, and we're gonna do another town hall after we have the rough draft of that plan for people to comment on before it's finalized, so if it's finalized. So to be continued, there's a lot of things to work through, so. All right, is there anyone else?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
And I don't need microphone.
Okay.
If the town people, the citizens of FEMA committee.
Can you please go to the microphone?
It's not for, it's for the people online, sir.
Hi, my name is Charlie Bolton. Been here since '95. And this seems to be a pet rally for the ranch, and that's wonderful, thank you. Everybody that I talk to in town does not want the Brown Ranch. I think it's a huge mistake. And I'm afraid Steamboat is just getting bigger and like Jack said, bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's an endless cycle. I don't think. Except for you guys, I don't think the people that live here want the Brown Ranch. Who's getting paid? Who's? I can't put the voice together well, but everybody, and so if the people. The citizens get together and sign a petition, and they get 1,200 signatures. This whole thing can be put to a vote.
Yes, if city council passes it, they might just send it to a vote and then you don't have to do that.
If city council passes this whole Brown Ranch.
Right, so if they pass it, then you can go and petition and get the signatures to bring it to a vote. Or city council might decide that it's just going to a vote. So by being here today and saying what you said in front of the BRAC team, they know that that's how you feel and that might help sway them to what you're wanting. I don't know. Yeah, thanks, John. All right, thank you guys. To be continued, another one at 6 o'clock. We appreciate you all coming and
It's simply a matter of really getting out of the community, to talk to people, I think. But I thought most significant was the smaller version that was actually approved by voters. And then didn't happen to because the British Ray was not unable to buy the property. It's an indication that probably there's a slight majority in state vote, that would vote, that's all I'm saying. I don't know this time, but you can buy Ray.